Hey, hi Sarah, hi Joanna. I'm really glad to have you both because it's a pretty busy night for you. Tonight is the Axe Hackers London meetup. It's also the first kickoff meetup for us in Zurich, where I am today. Could you just please explain us why and how you co-founded the London chapter?
Shall I take this one, Sarah?
Yeah.
So actually, a couple of years ago, well, about 3 years ago now, I was interested in the learning to code as a journalist. I was a journalist at the Times newspaper, and I thought maybe if I understood how to code, I would better understand how to talk to developers and to work with them on news projects. So I founded something called Ruby in the Pub, which I did along with a journalist who you might know called James Ball. James Ball's currently working for The Guardian. He's one of the reporters on the NSA stories at the moment. So James and I tried to start this meetup, which we thought was a great idea, which was getting together with developers in a pub and learning to code. And it's a great idea, except the bit that involves pub and learning to code, because it turns out that nobody actually wanted to sit in a pub and figure out what a string was, or try and do some incredible thing with PHP or JavaScript or whatever. They actually just wanted to drink and talk. But we noticed that when people drank and talked, they actually got on so much better and started to understand each other a lot better and had more patience with each other. And actually, ultimately, that's what we really need inside news organizations, is better communication between those people who are really technical and those people who are journalists and editorial. One day, someone called Aaron Pilhofer, I don't know if you know him, came over from New York to visit Ruby in the Pub. Aaron is he was at the time the head of interactives at the New York Times. I think he's now sort of a managing editor there. And he had started to work on something called Hacks Hackers in New York, which was part of the larger Hacks Hackers organization that had been founded by Bert Herman, who's the founder of Storify.
Okay.
He said, we don't have any international tractors. Do you want to start the first one? So I did.
What was the first one founded? Because I know some guys at Storify, because the other co-founder is a Belgian guy, actually. I lived in Belgium. His name is Xavier Daman. So the Storify story in itself is a hacker story, because Bert is a journalist,
yep.
So a hack, and Xavier is the techie guy, so a hacker.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
So it actually happened simultaneously across the USA in about, how old is Hacks Hackers London now? Well, we founded in about 2010. Okay. So it happened around the end of 2009, early 2010. And both Bert and sorry, I missed the name of the other chap, but the guy who was working with at Storify, basically came up with the idea of Hacks Hackers. At the same time in New York, there was a couple of guys who also came up with the name Hacks Hackers for a slightly different event. And Aaron was one of them. But they started to realize that the format of the San Francisco and Los Angeles version, run by Bird, was the one that was really taking off. And so they began to roll the whole Hacks Hackers idea together. And then it sort of spread from there. So the London chapter was, I believe, the first international chapter, but of course now there's chapters all the way around the world, which is really great.
And one more tonight.
Yes. And then earlier on this year, I got around to actually creating the first Hacks Hackers London committee, which has been the best decision I ever made, and has some superb people on it, such as the amazing Sarah Marshall, who you can see there, and Cassie Werber, and MacRobert and Alec Muffett, who are also incredible people who help organise the events month by month, with Cassie and Sarah doing the main job, sort of picking the speakers and helping sort out the venues. But they're the sort of, they do the great things that you're going to see this evening, or the attendees will see this evening.
I already attended one of your meetups, a special one, the last month's one in London, right after the Mozilla Festival. How many people were there, and what was special about it? Could you maybe, Sarah, answer that?
So yeah, we actually arranged the last one, timed it off the back of the Mozilla Festival, because we knew there were some really interesting people in London. So we thought, let's make the most of them as speakers. We have hosted them at the Mozilla space in London before, the Hacks Hackers events, but we knew that we would be too big. So we generally have been getting about 120 people. Last month was probably double that. Partially because we had these great speakers, it was an opportunity to hear people like Jackie Maher from the New York Times, people like Miranda Mulligan from the Night Labs. So people saw that opportunity, and quite a few people who'd been at the festival came.
Yeah, it was really great. Thank you for that, by the way, because the place was very amazing. It's Weira, am I right?
That's right.
The booze was great. That's an important part of it.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I really liked Jackie and Miranda parts, because I met them in the Mozilla Festival. We talked about some subjects, really open news related and developing coding related, and the meetup was really an occasion to see what they had to say about collaboration between journalists and techies. So it was really the Hacks Hackers idea in action for me, and I'm really thrilled for us to here in Zurich to try and manage to do the same. What could be the advice you could give us about the mistake not to do, the thing you made and you're really bad about?
Shall I take it first? But then obviously Sarah founded Hacks Hackers Brighton, so she might have some good points as well. I think my number one is don't over-engineer it. A lot of people think, I have to do this meetup, I should definitely create elements of it where you try and force people to get to know each other and force people to take part in conversations, a bit like speed dating. The problem is that it ends up feeling like speed dating. People start feeling uncomfortable. So I think, if you can do a number of things. One, focus on trying to make people feel comfortable and relaxed and interested. And then also take your lead from the community. So some things that your community that you build up will do may be against what you think is good judgment. So for example, the overwhelming feedback I had from the Hacks Hackers London community was they didn't want labels with their names on them. Now that's so everyone usually at a meetup wants that, to know who's who. But I got a lot of people saying they didn't want it because it felt too formal. They liked the idea that they were in a pub and they were around like-minded people that they knew they could just talk to, and they liked the discovery of finding new people through that social process. So that was a new thing for me, and I think the community itself can teach you a lot about what they want and what they need.
And it's a particular community of really brilliant people. I mean, not us, but the speaking people, the guy who have something to say about what he made or what she made, really brilliant people. So yeah, I really hear what you say about not over-engineering. They're really brilliant. Let them do.
Exactly. Oh, and also, although I wouldn't say over-engineer it, every month I do this thing that people find slightly annoying, which is I ask how many journalists or hacks are in the room and how many technologists or hackers are in the room and get to show of hands. And the reason why is that depending on the makeup or the number of people from each camp, we might change the speakers slightly in the next month to try and slightly more appeal to the people that weren't there. So if we've got too many journalists, then we might go for a slightly more technical speaker the next month, or if we've got too many techies, we might try and open it up and do something we know is a hot topic with journalists. But by doing that, we can try and keep that balance, because ultimately, I think if you end up with too many of one of the camps, then either it's just a tech meetup or it's a journalist booze up, and it needs to be both.
And in London, in Zurich too, we already have really plenty of tech meetups, so no need for another one.
Exactly.
Is it the same in Brighton, Sarah?
So yeah, I think my pieces of advice would be, the size isn't important. So in Brighton, we've had quite a big group meetups, smaller meetups, and actually it's about the quality of the conversations, the quality of the things that are happening. I don't think that if you are a group, you have to be, 250 people to a meetup. I think the second piece of advice is, if speakers pitch to you, use that filter. So as a journalist, if somebody approaches you, you kind of automatically think PR, they're trying to sell me something. So go out and invite speakers. Don't ever expect speakers to come to you. And then I guess the kind of, the other piece of advice is probably organise yourself in teams, in the sense of, we've got this committee in now that I'm co-organising London with Joanna and Cassie and the others, and it's much more fun to do it collaboratively, to bounce off each other. I think that kind of makes a really kind of energetic group, rather than, in the past I've tried to do Brighton by myself, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's a bit draining sometimes.
That's exactly how I found London. So, I'd kept it going for sort of 3 years, but it was, I think there has been a new energy injected into it, having the team, because they're brilliant and they know a lot about the subject, and they can bring their ideas and their organisational skills to it too.
I saw in the London meetup you use a lot of Google tools, Google Documents for collaborative notes. Is there any particular tool you'd really recommend to us?
Personally, I think when you get going, it's actually about personal invites. When I set up Brighton, it was about emailing people I wanted to take part individually, getting them on side. I don't think you can presume that people are just going to come to you. So I think that's kind of the key thing, setting up, and then, keeping the momentum up. I guess the same goes. It's actually about personal relationships.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think technology, I know this sounds very strange, but I don't think it's necessarily about the collaborative technology if you have tools to be able to communicate with members. And then it's about, this is such a journalist answer in many ways, but then it's about, the tone in which you choose to engage.
I could say it a lot too, because they master those tools better than us, actually. And the problem is not another tool. We only need good relationships, no matter what tool you use, actually. I'll try not to use too much of your time, because the three of us have a meetup tonight.
Yeah, quite.
Maybe one last question. What's the topic or the speaker tonight or next month, if you already know, you're really thrilled about?
The first speaker, I'll let Joanna do the second speaker. The first speaker is a guy called Roger Beecham, young guy who is working out of City University in collaboration with some data that's been made available by Transport for London. So there's a bike share scheme here, sponsored by Barclays. They're better known as Boris Bikes. But having that data, you can work out things like how women ride bikes, how men ride bikes, how different age groups ride bikes. So I'm kind of excited to see what he's going to say about visualizing data and finding the stories through data visualization.
Okay, and you have an ecosystem really mastering the geolocalization tools, so might be interested in what you find fitting for London.
Yes.
Definitely.
And then our second speaker is a bit of a new venture for Hackers London. We're going to have our first practical workshop.
Great.
So I know, we're really excited about it. We'll let you know how it goes. And it's another collaboration with another Hackers chapter. So Annabelle Church is part of Hackers Berlin. And she's also a Knight Mozilla Fellow, and has been looking at the idea of data stringers. So the idea that news organisations have stringers posted in foreign countries, and those people are responsible of sending back information to the news organisation if something important has happened, and they'll report only if they're needed. So she said, why don't you take that idea with data and have small bits of code interrogating certain, numerous data sets and alerting journalists when something interesting has happened. So she's looking at creating a tool called Data Miner to try and do that. And we're going to do a workshop tonight to try and look at what open data is available and what sort of queries would you want to run in order to find something journalistically interesting. So we're going to hope the collective minds of Hackers London are going to come up with something exciting.
Will you document that workshop in some way? Maybe a video capture or something?
We will definitely try our best. Our famous regular blogger, Martin Beelam, is unfortunately not coming tonight. But we will do our utmost to make sure that
I'll no doubt be making some notes.
Yeah. Sarah does some great Google Notes. Google Doc notes.
Okay. I'm looking forward to them. They are available on your Twitter feed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. I'll be in London at the end of December. No, not really the end. 12th and 13th. So maybe we can meet there. Thank you very much for your time. Maybe last word for fellows in Zurich.
Good luck.
Good luck, Zurich. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.